If you have a hard time with boundaries, how might your life be different if you could say no as easily as a joyful yes? I'm Love Coach Mariya, and for over a decade now, I've been encouraging folks to empower their compassion so it's big enough for ourselves as well as others, and so our boundaries can become healthier than ever. You're listening to Empower Your Compassion, and on this show, we'll be unlocking transformative insights to help you reconnect to your true yes, so you can say no from that more expansive energy and get more of what you want in your relationships and your life without sacrificing your compassion. Are you ready for more love? Let's grow. Hello, gorgeous. Welcome back to the show. This week, I have a colleague of mine joining. Her name is Bridgid Berkano. She's a life coach who helps women develop an integrated spiritual practice as a way to process and anchor the emotional and intuitive parts of their daily life. She lives between the Cedars and the Sea in Tulalip, Washington, with her partner of 13 years and their 8 and 11-year-old sons, 3 cats, and countless woodland creatures and forest spirits. I do not have children, so I'm very happy to bring a mother's perspective to the conversation around boundaries and how they support us in staying resourced for what matters most. Let's dive in. Thank you so much for joining me, Bridgid. I'm delighted to have you here.
Thank you, Mariya. Happy to be here.
Very nice. So I know that you are a proud mama and the rock and the heart of your family. We also talked previously about how your journey of honoring your boundaries has become a really important part of you staying resourced so that you can show up for your family. What has that been like?
Oh, yeah, big questions. I guess I could go back to when I wasn't that way.
Sure. Yeah, let's start there.
Because it's something that I found, it's like proclaiming like I'm the rock of my family. Yeah, my husband would say that. But the ability to show up in this way, it's definitely something that I've cultivated. And just like you talk about resourcing yourself, like you really have to. If you think about what a rock is, it's not sand. It's not a pile of sand. It's a very sturdy collection of minerals and resources that, compact together and solidify over time. So yeah, just honoring the stone in that way. So yeah, when I first thought of having kids, I imagined like 8-year-olds or something where they're like fully formed into who they are pretty much. And they're just kind of fun to play with and drive around. And they already know how to do a lot of things for themselves, and the family culture is established. And, it's like when you're dreaming of things, it's like you fast forward into the future. Like, this is what it's going to be like.
Skipping over all of the journey of getting there.
Exactly. All of the hard work of becoming this person. And that's really nice to reflect on now, because I feel like, well, my kids are 8 and 11. I feel like that's where we've hit our stride is in this kind of vision. But before, I didn't, when I became pregnant with my rock and roll boyfriend, who like we were committed to each other and we knew that we wanted this, but we didn't have any friends with kids. We were in a cute little apartment in Seattle, and we were both like working musicians and just like not in the scene of the family life. So it was all stuff that we had to learn and become. And I quickly realized that, having a baby, I had to hand over so much of my time, my energy, anything that I wanted to do now was in support of this new life. And that was, probably my codependent tendency, right? Is just to completely like put this other human all of their needs completely before my own, and there was a huge learning curve, and that makes sense for me. It's something that I had to focus on and learn how to do that I hadn't really seen, and I had to figure out how I was going to do it, and I had to find these new people to do it with, like who had kids themselves. So it was a whole paradigm shift. But yeah, I really lost myself and remembering to really resource myself, and I just had to figure out a whole other way to do that, because I used to spend a lot of time with friends and creating art and music and being in a community in that way. And then I didn't know how to do that with a baby with me all the time. So yeah, my life just became completely focused on like making it all work and holding it all was the next step. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be really challenging to find a way to blend things. And I think the mind is really good at sort of all or nothing, black and white thinking. It's like, okay, I can live this life or I can live this life. But um, how to bring two different worlds together is definitely a challenge. Do you think that you found a way to bring two worlds together, or do you think that you found an entirely new way to be in the world in a healthy way?
Right. That's a great question. Well, we did have to move out of the city for financial reasons. I couldn't keep up my freelance career. It's probably easy to imagine. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, so we moved out to the suburbs where, children were much more normalized.
Yeah.
So that definitely helped. Um, just, but I lost that whole arts aspect. Because yeah,
Permanently or for a time?
for a time until I
Hmm.
found out how people are doing it here.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Um, right.
So
So
you created a plan C. You found a new way to exist.
yeah, yeah. And we're talking about resourcing ourselves. So in the city, I was resourcing myself through ideas and intellect and culture, which was great. And then I moved out into, well, the woods, like north of Seattle, so kind of a more rural area. And I had to learn how to resource myself through nature,
Mm.
which actually was incredible for my spiritual life. I really learned how to draw up energy from the earth and release energy into the earth.
Mm.
And that's a lot of what I teach in my coaching, actually, is like these specific tools for cycling energy through. And it's funny because I'm remembering it was before we moved and I had this baby and I was still trying to make my band work. Um, and I remember we were on a ferry out to Canada for a show, and I was just thinking, like, this is weird. Like, I just want to live in the woods and do energy work. And then I found myself doing that less than a year later, just because of circumstance. Um,
Huh.
yeah, so that's kind of cool. But I'm just remembering, you know, uh, like COVID times, a lot of parents just found that they were so depleted because now they have to work and homeschool their kids, and they can't go do the things that they would normally do. um, Everything is harder, and during that time my husband was still working full time. We were moving house into a little RV because we had to fix up our new house, and I was making that whole transition work because I was parenting full time then, and I was like painting and moving and doing all the paperwork for all of this. And I had two little kids. They were what, like 3 and 5. And I remember like the only moment I had to myself was I decided I would walk down the driveway to my mailbox barefoot. And that became my spiritual practice because that was the only time that I could just take in the world, have a moment. I was like, all right, they're just going to be safe in there for like 10 minutes while I do this. And yeah, that's an example of finding a way to resource myself.
Nice. In transition, no less.
In transition. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's like, yeah, when life just like jumps up into a tornado and everything's moving around, it's like finding that 10-minute anchor in a new place is so helpful.
Absolutely. I think also something I find on my journey is consistently a challenge is not just finding the tools to help us, be our best selves, but really like developing the awareness so that you even like think to implement them. What has been
Hmm.
something that has helped you develop that sort of awareness? Because I imagine like being a full-time parent, you had two kids at that time as well.
Oh, yeah.
You're in transition. I imagine a lot of people would just kind of get so swept up in that chaos that they wouldn't even think to like establish something to stay grounded, or like days could go by and they'd be like, oh, I forgot to even do that. What has been something for you that has helped build a foundation beneath your foundations that helps you maintain that practice?
Realizing that it's life or death
Mm,
for me. It's, call me dramatic. I said I was an artist, right? But is really like, I don't like feeling like I'm going to lose my shit all the time.
yeah.
I don't like fighting with my family all the time. I don't like drowning my overwhelm with alcohol, which is another place I used to turn. Um, I don't like when I'm like fantasizing about just disappearing and running away from the people who love me the most. So, yeah, I all of these things I've done, and that's the kicker. That's the realization. It's like I absolutely must spend time nurturing myself, making my body feel right, whether it's like stretching, dancing to a song, finding out like what lifestyle problem like is really bothering me so I can communicate that. Asking for help, like it's completely worth it to, not suffer a hangover every day.
Mhm.
and and raise my kids in an environment where they're not wanted.
Mhm.
Like I'm yeah, I absolutely need to have these practices to show up and just feel like I'm doing the right thing in my life.
Mhm.
Does that make
So
sense? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So like I'm picturing the story of the lotus growing through the mud, and having been in the mud is the motivator for you to stay resourced.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, yeah, when my first kid was a newborn and I was like a couple weeks into like healing and nursing all night. And um I missed my life. And I remember just sitting in the bathroom and wailing, like crying so hard, like, what the hell have I done?
Mm.
Um,
Grief.
yeah, I'm getting really emotional about it right now, just thinking about that time. And so, yeah, I knew I really had to hold on to myself, um, and find my way through it, or like it was going to get really ugly.
Well, kudos to you for pulling out of that. Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
thank you.
Yeah. And I'm glad you did.
Me too. Um, Yeah, I mean, to fast forward to now, like I have the same partner and we're working together. We've maintained pretty much every week we have a night to ourselves where we're just like you and me, and it's for the purpose of whatever we need that week. It's, a heart to heart, it's a life planning, it's let's just have fun. Um, any of those things. Shout out to the grandparents who host our kids for a sleepover every Thursday night. Because they know, they're like they all divorced. Like they know they don't want us to divorce. They're just like you kids got a good thing going on.
Aw.
You take your time. So yeah, and I have to say to the moms, like I am so fortunate to be living close to family who I feel really good about leaving my kids with. So I don't take that for granted. But I have to say, like, anytime I leave my kids with another trusted adult, I'm not abandoning them. I am giving them an opportunity to create a really special bond with another special person. So that was another thing that really helped me, not feel so weird about it. Because it's like, yeah, it's so weird. Like you grow this being in your body and then they're completely attached to you and they only want you. And then, to put that boundary up and just be like, I got to do something else, kid. Like, ugh. So, yeah, that's what would help me, like I would work like off and on, get a job like waiting tables throughout my early parenting life or something. And I'd leave them with their dad. And maybe he's not like as completely perfectly excellent at parenting as me, but he's their dad and they have a special thing and they're really close. And I feel really good about just leaving them to figure it out.
Yeah. And I mean, community is so important. And I think it's also imperative for like development to have that sort of diversity of inputs in our
Mhm.
social realm. And even just getting to, I mean, obviously you want it to be someone you trust, but even if it's not necessarily like a super special person in your life,
Right.
um, it's still a really helpful experience for the kids to be able to be around different people and have different experiences and learn a little bit of, I don't really want to say independence so much, but like self-reliance, knowing that they can go into new experiences and navigate them and come out of them and be reunited with safety of parents. I think that has got to be really positively reinforcing for their own development and confidence.
Absolutely. Yeah. And seeing how other people do it, and then making those decisions. Do I want to have like do I like this quality in a person? Do I want to be like this? Do I want to pull this? I feel like I'm a combination of like so many different little qualities that I see in the world that I try to take in.
Yeah, having a
And
variety of influences.
yeah,
Mhm.
100%.
And then on
Yeah.
top of it, modeling boundaries for your kids, I feel like is one of the more valuable things we can do for them as well. And just modeling self-care in general too.
So much. Yeah. I'm just thinking like my mom kind of follows me around and listens to everything. So maybe she'll hear this, but I remember like my mom would get so upset, like so upset about just something that like became too much. It's usually like the house being messy or something. And then she'd like kind of lose her mind about it. And just like, whoa, like you could have said something before, or like there was no like routine, there was no like structural, like, this is how I want things to go. There was no like, um,
Clear communication of expectations.
right, exactly. Clear communication, front facing, like, this is how it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was all like reactive.
Mm-hmm.
And that was hard to navigate as a kid because like sometimes it's a big deal, sometimes it's not. And then I ended up like trying to anticipate a little too much, and that's when the codependent stuff comes in. And I love my mom. I think she did like a pretty amazing job, but how I'm doing it, uh
Wait, before you say how you're doing it now, I'm curious if you found yourself repeating that, like mirroring that, like for a minute, and then you're like, oh, wait, no, I know this doesn't work. Or were you able to get ahead of it?
oh yeah, okay, how I found myself mirroring it is like in my mind I'm blaming my husband for everything. I'm blaming him when something breaks. I'm blaming him when I can't find something. I'm blaming him for, like our finances when I'm the one with a college degree. You know? And he's just been like holding it up and working his way. Um so yeah, that's a big thing that I realized I picked up, like being so reactive and just reacting to everything instead of saying this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do.
Being more proactive.
Being more proactive,
Mm.
exactly. So yeah, I keep finding places where it's like, okay, I'm going to stop blaming the people who love me the most and show up for me the most for everything
Mhm.
that's wrong with my life.
Fancy that.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm gonna give a shout out to this lady, Sam Kelly. I don't know if you've heard of her. She has this like homemaking, house cleaning for families kind of philosophy called See and Do. And it's about getting like teaching your family to see what needs to be done and then they take care of it rather than, either mom does everything or mom manages other people doing things. So, yeah, I love her program. I love teaching your family to fish so that they can feed themselves rather than, always coming to you for everything. That's a good way to be proactive.
Right? And it's interesting too, the way that that dynamic on the shadow side of that plays out, with the sort of savior, rescuer, martyr, where we subconsciously create this dependency because then we're needed. And like we get our sense of purpose and meaning from being needed. And yet we resent everyone for relying on us, but we don't actually set them up to be self-reliant and independent because we subconsciously thrive on them being dependent on us. It's like this weird, twisted dysfunction.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it kind of comes from like a lack of confidence too. Like I need to feel important
Mm-hmm.
because
Certainly
people
some
rely on.
insecurity. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And it's a pretty common root beneath flimsy fences, like having poor boundaries, um,
Mhm.
or even the flimsy fence and spiked walls cycle, right? Because you will just say yes to everything until you're completely depleted, and then you say no really harshly, and then you feel bad about it, and then you go back to your flimsy fences until the spiked walls have to come up, and then it just perpetuates this idea that boundaries are mean, and so you avoid them, or then fulfill that prophecy and be mean about them, and on it goes, instead of learning, how to root your security within so that
Mhm.
you that having that internally rooted security is so important. It's such a foundational piece because it gives you this sense of safety within yourself. It's not just security, it's also safety, because a lot of people today run around with their sense of safety and security anchored outside of themselves.
Mhm.
And that just perpetuates an insecurity. But when it's rooted within you, you feel safe for other people to flounder a little bit, or to have some discomfort, or to maybe be disappointed in you, or, whatever. Because when you have that external orientation, it becomes so important to you that other people feel calm or okay, or at least in some form of approval of you. And you have to feel safe within yourself in order to brave the risk of that sort of, rejection or judgment or disappointment from others, in order to really actually be boundaried in a healthy way and stay resourced, because some people are going to have a hard time with it, but you have to do it for you so that you can continue to show up, even in their best interest. They might not love it, they might not like it, but overall, every time you honor a boundary of yours, you lay a brick in the foundation between you two that builds safety and trust. And it might not be pleasant in the moment, but overall, you're building something that lasts.
I love it. Totally. And when you were just saying that, I was thinking, well, I'm right in front of me is my little personal altar. And that's something that I encourage my clients to create for themselves, because that's where you source the anchor. In just in my, in my philosophy, it's like, if I'm the mom and I'm setting the tone for the whole family, and my husband's looking to me like, how's she feeling today, and my kids are, they're relying on me. Their level of safety is directly proportionate to how I'm showing up. Like, so where do I get it? Where do I go? And it's yeah, and it's great to, have a coach maybe to like help you with that, but they can't be the complete anchor for you.
Right.
So like, so eventually, like, you really have to find your own personal practice. Like, where do you go when you need resourcing, and not just like, oh, a good meal and workout, like, but like a real spiritual like connection to all. And like, I like, what's driving me, what's my value behind this, what, like, who's really supporting me like in my spirit. So yeah, that's why I have people make their own personal altars. And it's a place to go, because when you keep going to this space, it builds up the momentum, and you it's gathering the energy that you're cultivating of like your own best interest for the greater good, for yourself. And it's like this space will start to give you answers, and it's not that it's outside of yourself, but it's, you can see it, you can smell it, you can feel it. And you can, yeah, feel yourself in the chair. Maybe there's some scents involved in it, and it's just like this remembering, like, oh yeah, like uh I deserve I deserve spiritual direction and support, and I am holding the vision for my family, and it needs to come from something even like deeper than me as a human for me to feel really anchored. Yeah.
Nice. I'm curious about some of your practices. For me, I find I call it my peaceful power practice. And the elements of it are study. So on that note, also, I go through phases of like, one coach I worked with called it consumption and production, which is sort of like intake and learning. And then the separate phase of like integration and implementation. And I noticed that there are like self-help junkies that will just like consume constantly, but never
Been
really
there.
integrate or implement, right? Yeah. And yeah, I think we've all been guilty of it. It's kind of a rite of passage to go through that learning curve, but you have to I think probably all of us, you have to step away from the learning at some time, for different periods, so that you can really integrate it and start implementing it and like developing the skills that you've been learning about and putting them into practice. And I find that I'm really attuned now to the point where I can like tell that I'm like, it's like a meter, like I'm full and like I've got too many inputs right now. I can't. And then I kind of become a little bit closed off to outside inputs. And I'm like, okay, thanks. I'll take that and just file it away. But like I can't really like receive anymore right now. I've got to integrate and implement what I'm already digesting, you know? And that has also helped me like shift because for like most of my earlier life, I had such a high value of being in student mode. Like I thought that it was really important to always surround yourself with people who were smarter than you so that you could always be learning. But I got into my 40s before I was like, wait a second, maybe I can be the expert now. Maybe I've learned enough from like studying everyone else for like decades that like maybe it's time to start shifting into like my own expertise and like stepping into that and honoring that and living it. And so that's been a practice too. And part of that has helped me like trust my intuition and know when it's time to be in a receptive phase and when it's time to be in a expressive phase. But aside from study, then of course there's self-reflection, and that's a lot of journaling. My relationship with journaling has evolved a lot over the years, but I'm in a really sweet spot with it where I can just journal a question, and oftentimes, I don't know, maybe slightly more than half the time, but not all the time. It's like my higher self will just channel the answer. I'll be like, I wonder what, and it's like I'm not answering the question with the intention of like figuring it out right now, but it's just posing a question. Like, I wonder what it would take for this. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is the answer. This is what's needed. Sometimes it comes to me hours or a day or two later, but it's a really, for me, journaling is now a great conversation with my higher self. And then a couple other elements are like interaction. Like that's part of my peaceful power practice as well, is like getting playful with interacting with other people and like noticing what comes up in me in different interactions and maybe trying out different ways to respond or interact with people and seeing how that produces certain results in between us or within me. And support is so important, you know, having trusted family members to watch your kids or friends that you can bounce ideas off of, or have people who can hold space for you, or have mentors who can support you in your growth goals. And then of course the fifth element actually is embodiment. And that for me was like the biggest key. Like it unlocked everything. I had all of those other things down pretty well, and I had kind of like plateaued in my growth. And once I really unlocked embodiment and learned how to get in touch with my body and my nervous system, and you know, we talk about good vibes or bad vibes. Like vibes are vibrational frequencies, different energies that are felt in the body, and so you have to really be in touch with your body to be able to find what resonates and what's aligned for you. So I'm curious about what sort of practices help you stay connected to yourself.
Mm, that was so neat. Everything you just laid out there. Yeah. And it reminded me of something that my conscious dance instructor, facilitator, I don't know what she calls herself, facilitator, something that she said, and she guested on my podcast, actually, the Five Petal podcast. Her name's Jenny Mackey. It was about nature-based leadership and conscious dance. And she said authenticity it's an experiment. Like you try something and it's like, I don't know if this is going to feel right. I have to do it and then I'll see. You know, I'll check in. How is that? And so you asked me like what practice do I do for that? I mean, I love taking in information. Of course, like podcasts, you know, articles, blogs, you know, books, audiobooks, like all, just constant. But I did get to a point where like it's just I'm not really digesting any of this anymore. It's like I'm just kind of like it's skimming the top of my brain to like compare notes and categorize different people's philosophies, and I'm like, okay, like this is maybe not the best use of my time at this point. It's like a little too academic about such a soulful thing. And that's, yeah, like if I wanted to be academic about it, I would have gone for like a career in psychiatry, which like I'm not. I'm in the soul tending and the, sort of life coaching space, which is interdisciplinary. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for an embodiment practice, I mean, I love like qigong is
Mhm.
really cool for, cycling energy through and getting really good senses of like what a block feels like, and what flow feels like, and
Mm.
what calm feels like, and then manually moving the energy through. Like that's a really amazing practice. And yeah, qigong, it's spelled Qigong if anybody is interested in looking it up. It's yeah, ancient Eastern uh meditation and energy moving techniques. um Okay, so there's that, and then also just dance. I mean, qigong is like, you're doing these certain moves, but dance, like conscious dance, it's like an unschooled version of that. It's feral. It's like just anybody can do it, and you don't need any instruction. You just need to be willing to play, and that's it. And by play, I don't mean look like you're playing. I mean, like, turn inward and be open to what's happening. Yeah, I love that you could just be dancing with your lungs, like breathing to the music in a certain way and seeing what comes up. Or, it could be big or as small as you want. And typically, like the music will go through a lot of different moods and textures, and you're just feeling it all flow through. And yeah, that's a really big one for me. I try to do that every week. And when I need to, just my husband, that's his supportive move for me. Is like just hands me the boombox. He's like, why don't you just take this outside?
Go have a little
Have a
dance.
go. Yeah, have a little dance, and it always helps.
I actually bought myself this little, it's cheap, but it's also pretty, like sort of a figurine of like a dancer that I
Mhm.
put out on display to help me remember to dance. I love dancing, and I just, we get caught up in the day to day. And so she reminds me to move and
Yeah,
dance. I love dancing with life too,
it really just takes 3 minutes,
I
you
know.
know,
For one
and
song
it's
on that moves you.
yeah, and it's a total life shifter.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I love that. Um, yeah, what else for another practice? I mean, communicating with
Yeah.
my family. Like here's what I like to do. It's kind of a way, to work with the cycles. Um, I work with my menstrual cycle, I work with the seasons and the moon and the time of day. And there's like 4 seasons, right? There's spring when you're active and you have got a lot of energy. There's summer when things are just cooking and happening and there's a lot of abundance. And there's fall when you're kind of getting, a little pissed off and letting go of stuff, or maybe crying. It's like the kind of coming into the shedding emotions. And then there's winter, just stillness and reflection. So using those as a rubric. Something that I did last night, here's an example. Last night, it was, Friday. I have a full-time job now, besides coaching. So I work, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, get home with my kids. My husband's at band practice on Friday. So it's just me and them. And I'm looking around. The place is like pretty scuzzy because we haven't gotten to it in a couple weeks. And I'm like, all right, I'm tired. I'm going to honor my need for rest, but I am going to like look at everything that I don't like about the situation and write it down. And so I wrote it all on the whiteboard. Like, this needs to be done. 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 And okay, I got it there. I'm not yelling at anybody about it. I'm just saying, I'm getting it out, like things I want to have happen. And I'm letting everybody know, hey, this weekend we're catching up on this stuff. So everybody sees what's coming. They can read the whiteboard if they want. It's not a big fight. They get it because this isn't the first time this has happened. and and yeah, so as we speak, my husband takes over Saturday mornings while I focus on coaching, and they're picking away at the list. I'll come in and I'll do some things too. But yeah, it's just that's a nice practice for like utilizing, this is when I want to get it out and this is how I'm going to get it out. And then in the morning, the springtime, when we're rested and we have some energy to put into this, that's when it'll move forward.
What a beautiful expression of like healthy, powerful leadership too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to let people know what's coming.
Yeah, and it sounds like such a like productive and loving way to communicate too, instead of, like you said, blowing up and kind of, yelling at folks about what's wrong, you can just say, okay, these are the things that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
So
And I don't
simple.
even know that we're going to completely get to everything, but it's about my emotions too. Like I here's another thing that I realized is like, if I'm looking around and there's all this stuff that needs to be done, um like I know that it is not good for my family if I take it all on myself and they're playing video games and, doing whatever they want, lounging around, and I am the one taking care of all this stuff. It is not good for the longevity of my family for us to behave in that way. So, yeah, so just being really clear, like I will not provide any television. I will not provide game consoles until we've spent a good like couple hours working together as a family. Just for my own emotional needs, like because I can't with good conscience do that.
Yeah.
And guess what? Like my kids know how to do dishes and laundry. Like I'm setting them up for great success in their futures and for their families. And that feels really good. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, you are going to be a great roommate. You're going to be a great family member. You're going to be able to really pull your weight and have good relationships in the future if you know how to take care of this kind of thing.
And I'm thinking back to what you were sharing before about that program that encourages people to recognize when things need to get done instead of wait to be told about it.
Yeah, so we're not there yet. Um we're
Progress.
progress. Yeah, we're still in the training phase of like, do you see this like mess on the floor? Like, look at that. Like, do you see that? But my kids, I mean, I will say, like, if they spill something, they know how to clean it up like right away. That's a habit. It's just, we're not all the way there, but I'm happy with where we're at and we keep moving forward. I'll put it that way.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, if folks want to learn more about the support that you provide in your coaching, where would be a good place for them to go?
Yeah, come on over to the Five Petal podcast. I talk about my five petal framework. It's an integration of, well, five petals of the well woman's rose, which are mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, and relational. And then my website, bridgidberkano.com, or my Instagram at Bridgid Berkano.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. This has been a delightful conversation. And as not a mother, I really appreciate being able to bring a mother's perspective to this whole conversation about staying resourced and honoring our boundaries for my audience. So appreciate you contributing in that way.
Yeah, thanks. It's been fun. Thanks for having me, Mariya. And listeners can come check you out on my podcast as soon as that's up. So
Fantastic.
cross-pollination here. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Awesome. That was great. I'm so happy to be able to bring a mother's perspective to this conversation. If you would like to learn more about Bridgid, you can follow any of the links that I'll leave in the show notes. And if you would like to work with me, go to explorelovingboundaries.com to set up a free call. Or check out boundariesthatfeelgood.com for a free guide to the #1 insight that helps make boundaries easier. Wherever you're at on your journey, I send you love and courage. Namaste.